Welcome everyone to Portsmouth This Week. I'll be your host this week, Bob Poniatowski, trying desperately to substitute for your regular host, Doug White. Well, Memorial Day is coming up shortly, and how appropriate it is to take this time on Portsmouth This Week to honor veterans, and particularly some of our local people. We have representatives from two of the organizations this morning. One is the Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW, and Walter Coelho will represent them. And we also have a member representing the American Legion. He is Dave Duggan. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. You look very sharp over there. I feel like I need a hat. Walter, why don't you start and tell us a bit of what the VFW is and what it does and what it represents.
Well, the VFW 5390 and VFW National are a service organization to enable veterans that want to join and become part of a community and have an opportunity to make advance policies on laws and improve conditions in the veteran community. We have many programs that we run and serve, and basically we have 122 members.
I was going to ask,
here in,
you're anticipating all my questions.
In Portsmouth, and our district has 815. Altogether that consists of 5 posts, and nationwide we have 1.7 million members. Any honorably discharged veteran of a foreign war is eligible to join, and we meet on the 4th Monday of every month at 7 a.m.
Well, that's pretty complete. I'm going to go over to Dave now and talk about the American Legion. What kind of, who can join the American Legion?
Any veteran who has served at least 1 day active duty and has been honorably discharged can join the American Legion. Right now we have about 1.7 million veterans in the organization in the United States and abroad, and we have, out of 1,000 veterans in the Portsmouth area, we have 149 members that are on the rolls from post-18, but really about 30 that are active, and maybe even half of that are really active.
So it sounds, well, I'm sure you could use more. I was going to say it sounds like you have a good representation, but the percentage-wise is you could use a few more takers, right? Yeah. I'm curious about the kinds of things. What are the visible things out there in the community that people see VFW and American Legion? What kinds of things?
Well, we do get involved with scouting, and the scholarship programs. The VFW has the Voice of Democracy and Patriot Pen. Again, we had 3 winners this year. We were at the high school yesterday distributing those awards and certificates. We have programs that we run to get information out to veterans in the community, to let them know how to get their benefits, and to be involved with legislation to keep moving forward with veteran initiatives that we want to see completed and come to fruition. This has been happening over the last 50 years or so for sure. We've really kicked it up a notch and trying to make sure that no veteran is left behind, and that every veteran gets the information they need to get into the healthcare system and file claims if need be, or at least just get the basic information of things available to veterans.
Yeah, that, you know, it's, if there's a problem with today's communication system is getting the word out. There are so many things, including senior citizens and even high school seniors and so forth, don't know how many scholarships there are, and certainly people don't know enough, especially the veterans, what's available to them. How about you, Dave? What kind of things does the American Legion do that I might see?
Well, I think that the most notable things that you're going to see is you're going to see the reflagging of all the graves in Portsmouth. This year we've done every large cemetery in Portsmouth, including St. Mary's, Trinity, Union, which is next to the polo fields, which is kind of forgotten. And also we do some of the church cemeteries with our volunteers. And by the way, that's why we need volunteers to help remember our
That's
veterans.
a big project.
That's a big project.
It's a
but,
big
and it's
project.
even bigger this year because the state of Rhode Island has asked us to record all of the data on the veterans' graves. So we've all got clipboards out there while we're trying to take the old flags up, clean the area, put the new flag down, and then we're trying to record the information from the gravestone and make sure that every Rhode Island veteran is honored properly.
Well, it takes that sort of activity and that sort of initiative to keep the word out, because you must be, as I am, as we get on in years, we realize that the younger generation doesn't remember WW2. Korea War is probably a very dim memory, and yet that can't be forgotten.
Right.
That leads me to, what kinds of outreach do you do, either of your organizations, for the youth to keep this alive?
Well, there's a lot of outreach. Like I said, we get involved with the scouting and their scholarships and their activities.
What do you mean by scouting?
Boy Scouts, Eagle projects,
Okay,
Girl Scout
good.
Gold Award projects. We try to assist them. We have a young man here in Portsmouth right now who's doing for the discarding of flags.
Yes, I interviewed. He's a great guy.
He's a great young man, Nick. He's actually my neighbor, and we're trying to mentor him a little and help him along.
Good.
He's got a great project. We're going to put a box by the library that we will maintain, both American Legion and VFW,
That's good.
so that people will have a direction and place to go. We have the scholarship programs, of course, that there's many get involved with. We had like 90 of those from the high school, and we had to dwindle them down to the 3 winners.
Yeah.
But
That's
they're
great.
amazing
That's great
youth,
news.
the junior highs with the Patriots pen. And anything that they would need from us, we'll stand up and
You
give
make
it to them.
appearances at the school?
Yes, we do. We were there yesterday for the presentation of the certificates.
No, I mean just to rap, just to sit around in a circle and say, I might look old to
I
you,
have not,
but
but-
years ago I was your age, and I wasn't in school, but I was somewhere else.
Well, I will tell you that last year I participated in the AP History Project
Great.
at Portsmouth High School,
Great.
and had my interview done for the for the Library of Congress. They did the project there, and I had mine. It was heartwarming, and
It's what they call breaching the generation gaps, and you folks just need to stay alive in that. Do you do anything, Dave, with the kids, with the schools, with the youth, with
Well, I've been involved in scouting for over 30 years, and was a scoutmaster for Troop 5 St. Anthony's, which was right there on East Main Road, and then a unit commissioner for Troop 1 Portsmouth and Pac 10 Tiverton, and I still spend a week at summer camp at Yago.
you do? Good for
helping
you.
out there. So it's nice to keep your hand in that, because when we, for instance, when we reflag graves, you'll see what I call the old timers there, and you'll see some of the parents. But the parents are there because they're bringing the young Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
So it's good to see them there and to train them at a young age that there's something more to life than video games and entertainment. So.
Very important. Yeah, very important. There is a dearth. There is just a difficult time getting volunteers these days. In my contacts with various organizations, people have busy lives, and they're sort of involved with themselves, and they forget that their freedom and their ability to thrive as a result of some people like yourselves that made it happen. You have something here having to do with the interview for the Veterans History Project. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
the Library of Congress Veteran History Project was developed to have archived stories of our veterans. basically because we were losing World War II veterans at an alarming rate.
Oh, yeah.
And we wanted to record their stories. This is also now grown into past Vietnam, and even our new longest war that we've ever been in, we're in right now. And we begin to interview some of them. And it's everybody has a story, and it's amazing that the families have never heard them. And now they have the ability to be able to travel to Washington, go down to the archives, and see grandpa, grandma, their aunt, their uncle, whoever served, and hear their story.
Yeah.
And these stories are just, they humble me. I go, why, what have I done in my life compared to what some of these folks have done? So it's a very rewarding and a respectful project, and anybody who would like to have that interview done, by all means, they can contact me.
Speaking of contacts, how would they get a hold of you?
It's on a lot of our websites, and I have a lot of word of mouth that goes out. Of many of my organizations know that I do this, and if I can't do it, I get them hooked up. I have a Girl Scout Gold project she's doing right now, and she's doing this, and she's out of Greenwich, East Greenwich. But she came to the Veterans Home for Women's Appreciation Day and got that, met some of the women. I had her introduced to many of the women veterans that were there so that she could actually do some of the young women veterans and get their stories.
Yeah, with the modern technological capabilities now, that we need to use that for these purposes. Otherwise, it just, you know, I remember, I think one of my parents telling me that, you know, you better talk to these people, your relatives, because they're all dying. And one day, and my wife goes down to the family album and she says, "Who's that?" And I can't tell, because when they were alive, I didn't write it down. Do you have involvement with the History Project at all?
I do not, no.
David does with
Okay.
the Portsmouth Honor Roll, which we're both very proud
Okay,
of.
I want
we
to
can
talk
talk
about
about
the
that.
honor roll, yes. How does one get on the honor roll? What are the qualifications? Who decides?
Well, we have a committee right now. There's, 5 of us, I think, on the committee. That a person will put in an application. They get it. They can get it at the town hall, and we review the applications usually once a month, and we'll approve. I don't think we've disapproved anybody yet, so we approve the veterans. And after that, it's great, and it really follows into what you're saying. You see a picture and you say, "Who's that?" You don't know who it is. What the Portsmouth Electronic Veterans Honor Roll does, it allows the families to give us all the information on that veteran and their family. We can upload it and put it in the database, along with pictures and medals and
Yep.
the times they served.
Yep.
So we're in effect taking their information and saving it for them, as well as for Portsmouth, for the town of Portsmouth, you know, as residents.
So that's veteran broadly conceived, whether they're foreign wars, DAV,
Anyone, any veteran who served.
the only
one day in the service and so
Yes.
forth, it fits everybody, and a committee judges whether
Right,
it's
the only
appropriate.
requirement
We don't
have
judge it.
is-
We approve it based on
Right.
their DD 214, and we verify
Okay.
it. We
All right.
verify
The
it.
only stipulation we have is that they have been a resident for at least 10 years. So that
A resident of
a
Portsmouth.
resident of
Okay.
Portsmouth as to a resident on the resident honor roll, because several others may have come from another town, and they may be on an honor roll in another town, but we want to make sure that everybody is honored here.
Yeah.
That is pretty much settled in Portsmouth, or been here for at least 10 years.
Yeah, I have a sort of a camera eye, and I visit various places to take pictures, and I'm always amazed at the monuments and the displays and this thing that communities all over seem to have highlighting this service. Let's talk a bit about veteran issues. Again, I served, and I read. I try to stay up with things, and there's just a lot of talk in the paper about health services, and I guess the Washington thing has not been too efficient in providing for these services, and there are some horror stories about poor vets that are sitting in a hospital waiting and waiting and waiting, and so there's been some action.
Yeah, please.
Do you have any opinions or
I'm on the
comments on
mini-MAC.
that?
I'm on the Management Advisory Committee for the Veteran Medical Center. I disagree that you'll find there are problems in every situation.
Okay.
It's the largest healthcare system on the planet. Let's start there. Our hospital here in Rhode Island is a 5-star hospital. It dropped to
Okay.
4 just recently.
I
It came up
heard
from
that.
2. And the only reason it dropped to 4 is because if someone else gets 5, you have to drop down a notch. So we're still a 5-star. Yeah, it's government.
I'm glad to hear you say
Okay,
that.
so explain that. We're number 9 out of 147 healthcare facilities across the nation. That's number 9. All Boston is even in better shape than we are. In New England here, we're affiliated with Brown, Harvard. Our whole New England network is amazing.
So all those stories came out of a place
Come
other
out of
than
horror
Rhode
stories,
Island.
like you said. Yes, there was that situation out in Arizona that's been corrected. We have a director here, Susan McKenzie, who is just this amazing person who came in 4 years ago and
I read that too.
redeveloped our
read
whole
that, too.
healthcare system. So we really have a lot. They do a lot to make sure that the healthcare is number one. We're holding town hall meetings all around the state. You can go get information on how to file a claim, how to enroll in the healthcare system. Veterans feel that if they enroll or put in a claim, they're taking money out of another veteran's pocket. It's just the opposite of that. Like anything else, it's tax dollars. If you enroll into the healthcare system but you do not qualify at this time, it's still tax dollars that are now going to be applied to the healthcare system to help other veterans. So I encourage all veterans to at least apply, and you never know when your situation is going to change.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said all of that. I've read and heard some great things about the Providence one. How about the Vets Home? Do you have?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing.
It's brand new now, huh?
It's like the Hilton. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. You
It is.
go in there and it's
They
top,
deserve
it's
it.
top shelf,
Right.
and they deserve it. And we were just over there a few weeks ago because in the spring and in the fall we hold bingo for the residents. They love it. I guess they get stir crazy over there. So we set up the bingo games. They come in in wheelchairs or however, and we set up the games. We give them, prizes. So and we also help them. A lot of them can't even put the markers or change the markers, but we're there supporting them, and they know who we are. We're there at least twice a year. Would like to get involved more, but that's part of what American Legion Post 18 does. Is
That's
to,
a nice-
I volunteer over there once a week, and
Yeah.
I've been doing that for about 4 years now. I know them well. I know Rick Backus, General Backus, who directs that home. I know all this great staff and help. They're so dedicated. They're
I hear
so hardworking.
terrific things about that place.
It's just amazing.
A friend of mine had volunteered many years ago now to do video the masses for the people who couldn't go, and that's what he did weekly. He was there, and that's so good. That's a great project. The other thing that I'd like you to comment on is the business of job help. Again, as a non-veteran, qua veteran, I hear of people that serve the country, go to foreign lands, come back with one arm, and then they go looking for a job, and it's just like they're put on the back burner. Do you have any comments on veterans
yeah, you
and
talk
jobs?
about what
Job fairs.
Gallo
Yep.
puts out all the time.
We have
from the
great
state.
information. Yeah.
What
Go
is
ahead.
Gallo?
He's a veteran advocate, and
Oh,
he does a lot
okay.
for our legislation. He goes and does all the testifying and keeps everything about. But our job situation, we're having many job fairs now.
Yeah, a lot.
Job fairs, good for
yeah,
you.
the big
Seems
one
like
at the,
every month.
Yeah. I myself participated in, not participated, had to go to one a few years back before I retired, so I'm going to go back. That's almost 9 years ago. And it looked like game day when I went up to the stadium up at Foxborough, because DAV does the big expo. So there's a lot of unemployed veterans out there.
Yeah.
General
Yes.
Dynamics is looking for 1,500 people over the next
Right.
10 years.
That was the most significant that I've seen.
That's right. That's,
And they
that's a
hold
big boost.
they hold some of the job fairs at the medical center, and the state Rhode Island unemployment holds job fairs. So there are job fairs for veterans being held out there.
Yeah, it's like you're away serving your country and things are happening back home that you're not aware of, and then all of a sudden you're, I say thrust, I don't mean to over-exaggerate it, but if you serve in the military, you live a certain style and a certain routine, and all of a sudden you're a free citizen again, and now you grope around, where's the work? And what are some of these bennies that need to be promoted? Like I'm a veteran, and I guess there's an effort being made now to put the veteran on your a job application, and you get a couple of brownie points for that now, don't you? I mean, isn't there some?
Well, it's always, I think most people would always want to hire a veteran if they could. They know they're disciplined. They know they've already matured. So, you know, let's say.
Yeah, they've matured
For
the hard way.
For the government, civil service, the veterans get a 5-point preference on the application, and if they're a disabled veteran, they get 10-point preference. So it really works out well. And when I got out of the Navy in the 70s, I was under a VRA, which was a Veterans Readjustment Act, to where I could put in for a job, and I got hired in a civil service job when I got out, and it resulted in a 30-year plus career in Department of Defense. And so it really had a good fit for veterans returning or...
Only fitting, I think, and it's good to hear you say that. Again, all I know is, as the humorist years ago said, all I know is what I see in the newspapers.
Right.
So it's good I get a chance to meet you people, talk to you people, and you have a chance to get the word out, you know. Do you find yourselves doing a lot of advocacy at the State House with the government? Are you participating in, you know, getting your representatives to hear you and all that? Is a lot of that going on?
Well, I'm on the Governor's Advisory Council, so I get involved with the legislation, like you said, with Mr. Gallo, with our new director, Kasim Yan, who's doing great things. He puts a lot of time in, and he's made a lot of major changes. We give that to Gina Raimondo for appointing a director of Veterans Affairs, so we now have somebody who actually out there advocating for us. And we are putting together a website. They have put a website together to getting information, and I believe the state is going to put out a booklet at some point to make sure that all this information and what is available to a veteran
That's a
is given
great
to them.
idea.
Again,
Great
as we
idea.
spoke earlier before the show, you know, many of us didn't even know there was a tax benefit that was available to veterans
I was
in
going to bring
towns,
that
cities,
up
and towns.
next, yeah.
And other, you know, just being able to file claims and how to do it, and it seems like it's always complicated, but
I just wanted to add that we had Kasim Yarn here at
Right.
the VFW. At our meeting, the American Legion meets at the VFW, and he actually showed up and he presented what he was doing in the state as a newly appointed Veterans Director. And but he came right here to Common Friends Point, sat downstairs at our meeting, listened to what we were doing, and said if there's any way he can help to give him a call and let him know. So that's where it really comes down to. They really are interested. They came to Portsmouth. He came. He listened to us. We've got an open channel with him. So
Yeah, that's just so important. I'm a member of the senior citizens.
as we all
And
are.
the state puts out a booklet, senior citizen, everything, you know, and their contact numbers, names and everything. And it strikes me that you folks need a similar thing.
Right.
Because there's just so much out there that you're entitled to. It's a strange things. People advocate for something, they get the law passed, they get the regulation passed, it becomes effective, but then the word is slow to get back out and for
Yes.
people to benefit. Anything else that you want to mention about your work with the veterans that would be useful for the citizens to hear and read about?
I'll just
go ahead.
try to run down a few of these things. The American Legion also has a $1,000 scholarship for a Portsmouth High School senior every year.
Great.
And this year, the essay was World War I was supposed to be the war to end all
End all
wars.
wars, yeah.
And what should our role be now during peacetime in the world situation? So we had a young man write on that, and he basically said, it was just a one-page, $1,000 scholarship, and
Nice.
but his comments were diplomacy, world diplomacy. So it was pretty good. And a lot of these activities, whether it's reflagging the graves, the scholarship, the Memorial Day and Veterans Day services, we're seeking to bring the community, and especially the younger people, into what veteran service organizations do. This is their country. They would not be able to enjoy these freedoms without the veterans, and they need to know that. It's not all
Absolutely.
entertainment,
Yep.
but you really got to fight that, because that's what they see, is it's all entertainment. No, someone paid for your freedom. So
It's a tough lesson to learn, but one that must be taught and learned. Yeah, well, if this is an age of anything, it's one of distraction. And
Absolutely.
you just have to watch the TV for 20 seconds to see how many minutes of messages they're going to get in 20 seconds. And so our kids are, and with those phones and so forth they have now, it's just an information glut.
Yeah.
And in that noise, you folks
white
have to be
noise.
heard.
And we try to get the word out to many veterans. That's the hardest thing of all, I think, right now, is getting the word to every veteran and having every veteran respond back. They need to step up too. If they want to see these things in these programs that sometimes they'll complain about, the only way they're going to get changed is to be part of our organizations. I know Dave and I just told you how many people are in our organizations, but when you look at the people who show up for the meetings and who actually get involved, it's a handful. They do all the heavy lifting, and nobody minds doing that, but when you call for a rally such as at the State House to pass some legislation that's going in, and you see 50 or 100 veterans show up, and they have more that turn up for the marijuana rally,
Right.
it's kind of sad. So it would be important to see the veterans get out there. We do have a lot of these kids that are veterans that are in school now, and they're going to colleges. I know URI is now going to appoint a full-time on-site veteran representative so that they'll have their organizations within the schools, because I think that's where our new young members are going to come from, not from coming to our meetings.
Right.
Well,
as you said earlier,
we
we're a bunch of
appreciate the
old
work
folks.
that you do. Our time is about up, and I must
That's
say
good.
I've learned a great deal, and I hope our folks have also. So thanks for watching Portsmouth This Week, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.